learn languages, walk through New York City, watch Korean dramas, and cook for friends and family. Welcome, Mary. Next is Abby Willis. Abby is a system engineer too at Walmart. Her responsibilities including PKIs, HSMS, I'm sure I'm reading, certificate management, and other encryption solutions. Abby has a bachelor's degree in management information systems degree from Harding University. And next is Kelly Lenko. Kelly joins us from 30 years of Prudential firm experience. She is a business information security officer at Prudential Financial. Welcome, y'all. Great. Can you all?
Yes. Hi.
Sure.
This is great. So I'm very excited to meet y'all, and very excited to share some stories and get to know each other more. And hopefully we can share more fun and exciting stories for our audience as well. So let's, as part of the icebreaker and intros, and I think I have something here that we can do some icebreaker. Let's just introduce yourself, your name, title, who you work for, and then what's a piece of media that you found really influential, like a book, a podcast, a TED Talk, you know? Who would like to go first?
I'll go ahead.
Great.
So I'm Kelly Lenko. I do work for Prudential Financial. I've been there for 30 years. I did not start in IT. I actually started on the business side. And kind of moved over to IT about 22 years ago in information security. So I actually grew up with the field. So I can tell you how it's really evolved. I can tell you actually it's moving so quickly that we're seeing such change in the last 2 years that we've seen over time in 10 years. So that's quick. That's how quickly things are evolving. And I will say, so given as much time that we put into work and being moms and everything else, it is very difficult to actually sit down with a book and read. I do try to do TED Talks during my lunch break just to have that break from the computer and conference calls. So the TED Talks I kind of listen to anymore, motivational kind of TED Talks, but I do found that Rollout actually was a really good book that I found very interesting. It's a really good read. It talks about leadership, but it really talks about safe agile, which is really where the industry is going with their development. And then and I can talk a little bit about how we actually embed information security into that. But it's really 12-week sprints. And it's kind of like if you develop, you test, you go to production. And it's just like, quickly, you have a whole team of all your testers, your planning, everything at the table, doing all that planning, including information security, which is awesome. And it's kind of like a team of folks. They're doing the planning, they're doing the programming, and they're going straight to production. So the safe rollout actually, because it was such a change from what we're used to from a waterfall methodology to this new agile approach, I found it very inspiring. And actually, I find the whole approach very motivating. So.
Oh, great. Thank you. The agile approach sounds really interesting. Maybe later we can hear a little bit more about that. Great. Abby, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah, thanks guys so much for having us. I'm excited to be here tonight. But yeah, my name's Abby Willis. I'm an engineer on our cryptography team at Walmart. I've been here for about 3 years, and it is an exciting field to be in, information security, and to Kelly's point, it's constantly changing, which means it's never boring, which means it's a lot of fun. As far as the media, there's one TED Talk that I really do enjoy too. It isn't even InfoSec specific, but it's more talking about getting outside of your comfort zone, because I think that's so important and it's such a challenge. So I think I can't pronounce her name, so I'm sorry, I'll butcher it, but her name's Yubing Zhang, and it's called Life Begins at the End of Your Comfort Zone. That's one of my favorite ones. But I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having us again.
Thank you, Abby. Mary.
Sure. Hi, my name is Marianne Gutierrez. I work at Accenture. I've been there for 4.5 years, almost 5. I work as a security analyst, a security consultant, cybersecurity consultant, whichever you prefer. I love to be able to challenge, to tackle many challenges for different clients. So that is the part of the work that I love. It's always changing depending in the industry, depending in compliance, which are the rule or regulations that the government or a certain institution provides them. It's very exciting to see how each culture adapts to it. And we have this approach at Accenture of security by design. So nowadays, we add a security person to any project to provide the information, the feedback that is needed in order to have the security lens from the very beginning. And a piece of media that I love is a podcast, How I Build This. I'm a fan of that podcast. I've heard it from the very first episode. Besides that, I love Hidden Brain. I love to learn a little bit more of how the brain works and how we have all these biases. So I love that.
That's wonderful. I actually took some notes. Hidden Brain. I'm going to look that up. Thank you for sharing. I think we can start off with learning more about ourselves. How about we start with some basics? What does your job title mean at your company? And how do you spend your days? Who wants to go first? How about
start?
Yeah.
So I love this question because I remember when I was first kind of interested in security, I was like, okay, but what do you actually do? And I was so confused. So I appreciate getting to know, or people asking about that. I know it can vary a lot. So I work in security engineering. So there's a lot of different types of roles within security, and you even see them represented here today. But so think of my role as more of a proactive defense type role. So I work every day on different products that have to do with encryption of different information. So that could mean, engineering certain applications, that could mean scripting, that could mean automation. But I also do a lot of work working with the other developers in our organization to help them understand how to actually put these things into use. So we may offer these services, but we help them understand how to use it. So there's a lot of different items that it could be, and you kind of wear multiple hats in any role, but that's kind of what I do.
Thank you. I'm actually taking notes, Abby. This is exciting. Mary.
Sure. So, excuse me, can you repeat the question?
Sure. The question is, what does your job title mean at your company, and how do you spend your day or days?
Perfect. So my job title means I'm independent. I'm more independent than an analyst or a senior analyst, meaning I need to be proactive to understand what are the needs of the team, what are the next step in the project. The manager oversees the project, but as a consultant, I'm the person who does the work more with the other consultants and analysts. We see it's like a team lead, because as a consultant, I already oversee 2 or 3 analysts or senior analysts to do the work that we are supposed to do. Another thing is that as a consultant, I need to think the needs of my manager before my manager thinks about them. So you become like a mind reader, but that comes with experience, comes with a lot of being exposed to a lot of situations, a lot of projects. And in my day-to-day, I start my day with a stand-up depending on the client. Some clients are still in waterfall, like Kelly mentioned, or they are agile, then I'll be in a stand-up. I'll be part of the conversations of what needs to be done, what the client needs for us, what are the pending items that we need from the client in order to get our work done. That is the main meet and greet of a consultant, and understanding what is the problem and if we are focusing on the project from the right lens. Besides that, as a consultant, I also participate in Accenture activities. So I have my +1. In my case, is I run workshops for Girls Who Code and Accenture. I think some of you have been there. So I interact with the community and so on. And finally, at the end of the day, we talk with the client, we make them understand what are their actual needs, and to have clear estimates of how long will the project take.
That's great. You know, I came up with some questions, if you don't mind. So essentially, as a consultant, it sounds like you're a subject matter expertise and as well as an advisory role, it seems like, right?
Exactly. I get multiple hats. I have a little bit of project management as me, business analyst, and advisor. So all of them within one person.
Oh, wow.
But there are multiple people that do the same, because we, as an analyst, during our analyst period, we were acquiring more of the technical knowledge, specific knowledge, right? And as we move up, we should be able to provide more of the business background, understand the problem from the business side as well as the technical side, which are two different things.
Oh, wow. So you opened up a lot of the subject that actually raised even further curiosities, right? I think all of us at some point have worked with consultants, and I'm really curious as to how much of your time is actually spent on on-site with clients, right? And then prepping for the sessions.
So on clients prepping for the sessions is before the pandemic. We used to go to the client from Monday to Thursday and start as early as 8 in the morning and until 5. We usually use 25% of our time with the client in actual meetings, and then the rest is doing the actual work. In the other case, as a manager, you do more client, more meetings. But in my case, I'm a person who wears a lot of hats. Also, I cannot be just focused on one thing. I love to be involved in many things. So I'm a big picture person. So I'm always involved in different things within the project.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Kelly.
Yeah, so, whoops, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so it's interesting because actually Accenture is one of our strategic partners. And I've been working very closely with our Accenture partners. They are actually performing a lot of the managed service, a lot of our technology, as well as operations. And part of that work is ensuring that we're setting them up with the right security controls. But anyway, just to back up. So I'm a business information security officer, which is great. I think I get involved with everything or all aspects of information security. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an architect. I'm not a propeller head. But I'm kind of right in between the business and our corporate, information security office. And I work with all of those control partners or all of those expertise. So I have developed a lot of relationships. I get to work with, again, our high-tech investigations unit. I work with our architects, our engineers. I work with all the business, so the product developers. And I work very closely with the leadership teams on both technology and business, and I kind of bring their strategies together and ensure that we're doing things in a secure fashion. So with that, I definitely get involved with a lot of the systems development lifecycle, or SDLC, because in security has to be embedded, right? We're developing things, security by design. You hear privacy by design, security by design. I also get involved again with all of the vendor relationships. Companies today, they have multiple third-party relationships. So we have to ensure that when we're looking to engage in those relationships, that they have secure controls, right? If we're sending them data, that they have the right security in place. And I'm going to just kind of connect the dots here. So what we're doing with Accenture, they want to bring in some of their own applications into Prudential in order to support the engagement that they're performing for us. So we're assessing the security of those applications, making sure that they're right fit for Prudential, because we also have similar applications. So if they're saying that they need something for time management, we already have a time management tool. So it's a lot of, again, sitting with the enterprise architecture review board, making sure their applications are the right fit, making sure that they're coming in and not saying that they're in compliant with our security controls, but that we're comfortable with the right controls based on the risk. A lot of, again, what we do is risk management. I actually report directly to our Chief Information Security Officer. So I'm embedded into the information security team, but I work very closely with a lot of those partners. The other thing I do is I work with a lot of clients, believe it or not. So because I support institutional businesses, we're a financial company and we support institutional business, meaning the products that we offer that I'm supporting, you're getting through your employer, your 401k benefits, your retirement benefits, your insurance benefits from your employer. So we call them institutional clients. We deal with a lot of data, but it's financial at the end of the day, because again, a 401k account is financial and related. So our clients that we actually, our clients also want to make sure that their data that they're sending to us is secure. So as much as winning a business, a client wants to know that you're going to support their business needs. They are so interested in cybersecurity, and it really has exploded in the last couple of years. So even to win a sale, a business sale, you have to have a very strong security program. So I find myself meeting a lot with clients. So I support that side as well. So there's a lot of different aspects of a business information security officer and what we get involved with.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Now you use several words that I like. I actually put a question mark. Do you mind if I ask you some clarity?
Yep.
Great. You use control partners, right?
Yes. Control partners is often referred to as your legal team, your cyber law, your privacy, your compliance, your risk management teams. So they want to make sure you have the right controls based on their expertise embedded into either the product development, the technology that you're building, but it's really to support the business strategy. So I work very closely with those areas.
Okay, that's great. And would you say those control partners are also good entry into cybersecurity or information security?
I absolutely do. So if you even think about, even since I've joined or I've started information security 22 years ago, there was no such thing as privacy officers, right? So we all kind of grew. So even throughout my time in my career, privacy has now become a really big thing. So even if you started in privacy and as closely as you're working with your information security partners, you're learning, right? So it's a good segue into information security. So risk management, again, is a big part of what I do. You wouldn't put a $100 lock on a $10 bicycle, right? It's how you balance that risk when you're securing certain things.
Wonderful. And I think you touched on something that I'm actually, very intimate with, not from technical expertise, simply something that we're sponsoring in our company as well, which is SDLC, and you used the word embedded. And I think this is something that Abby can also help us understand. What does that really mean?
So I mentioned the Safe Agile methodology that we're now using, right? 12-week sprints. So what we have moved from, and I'm going to try not to be too long. So waterfall, you wrote your requirements, right? You then developed based on those requirements. You tested those, what you developed. You have to get approvals before, then you quality test, then you went to production. So it was and that took a long time before any code got to your production. Today, companies are trying to get there very quickly. They have to transform and they have to move to production very quickly. They have to evolve, especially if they're going to compete with startup companies and fintech companies. The large companies right now are going through a huge transformation. So they've moved to this agile approach. So 12-week sprints. So you have everyone at the table, your developers, your whoever's writing your requirements, your testers, everyone at the table to do the planning so that they know what they have to do within that 12 weeks. And they're part of that planning process. Information security is also there, right? So, and you have several different teams that may be part of what we call a program increment. So you have teams because you're developing capabilities are like little pockets of code. And it really allows information security then to go from team to team and be present during the planning stages and during those execution and those deep dive meetings, so that we're helping them to solution right there and not have to wait till you get to production and then now you found you have a gap and you have to go back. So it's kind of, so when I say we're embedded right there, we are definitely embedded now into the methodology of, code development.
Understood. That's great. Thanks for expanding on that.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Kelly, I always wanted to meet someone like you because of the type of your job work I do. So my biggest question is, what is the biggest challenge in your day-to-day?
The biggest challenge is trying to keep up with everything, right? And because there's, I guess, so much work that is happening, so much transformation work, you can't be in all places at the same time, and you can't be involved with every single project. So what are those significant initiatives? You have to make sure that you are networking, that people know who you are, that they're proactive reaching out to you. That is really key. So another thing that we've done, obviously, we're building automation into the DevOps pipeline so that you're kind of capturing those vulnerabilities and wherever you have, code gaps before it even moves to production, which helps and saves a lot of time. But you want to make sure that, again, that the people still know that to come to you. So we developed almost like this really small little checklist, say, hey, if you answer yes to these questions, make sure you're engaging us. But my biggest fear is that we miss something, right? Because again, you can't be in all places at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. I think
that gets me thinking, sorry.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I found most interesting when I started kind of getting interested in information security was you'll hear the saying, we have to be right every time, and an adversary would only have to be right once. And so it is kind of that pressure of, are we missing things? Absolutely, you feel that at times. Especially
in technical role as where you're really focused on prevention as well, right? And I think there's a lot of sort of trust and faith that the preventions that you recommend and hopefully that others actually follow those recommendations as well, right? But yeah, I think in my organization we have very similar challenges too, as well. But like all of y'all say, it's ever evolving. It changes so fast. And I think that's where the excitement about this industry is, that whoever comes into this industry, there are many facets of this industry, right? Like I think when I first heard about cybersecurity and information security many moons ago, I had a very narrow structure idea of what that is. And when I look at the industry now, my mind just goes, oh my gosh, there's so many different methods in which a talent can join an organization and actually function in information security in many ways, right? And then I think that leads to like our next discussion. I think that a lot of our audience will be interested in. It's really, and I'm curious about this too, right? How did you get involved in this field, right? And then was your path through computer science, specific major, so how did you get started and how did you land where you are?
Oh, sure. I'll start since. So the path for me was more of a matter of luck. As a student, I went to school to Rochester Institute of Technology for computer science. And there we have 1 year of co-ops. So I interned at Thomson Reuters, Credit Suisse, another insurance company. And after I had these experiences, I said, I want to be in a place where I have different projects, where I don't need to be in the same project for 5 years or 10 years, which is what I saw among my colleagues in those places. So I decided, okay, what is a place where I can learn more about technology and still do software, but still I want to learn more. And I learned about consulting, and I said, but I don't want to be a business consultant. I want to be a technical consultant. And that's when I learned more about Accenture and that they had that possibility. And because of my background doing research in mathematics in my school years, my type of personality, I fit into the security practice. So that was my luck. And then that's how all this started.
That's great. No, I think Kelly, I think you were saying something. I think you're mute.
Yeah, I was telling my daughter to take our dog for a walk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I gave my son a quick evil eye. No, not right now. Because he opened the door. He's sort of, here's your dinner, Mom. I'm like, no, not right now. All right. I forgot what I was going to say. Well, yeah. So, whenever I hear anyone's story about how to get involved in this field, I'm really curious as to like, you mentioned the word intern, Mary, right? How did you know? Like when you intern, did you know that this was the sort of the path you want to get to?
No. As I said, it was more of, I knew that I didn't want to stay in those companies and that I wanted a place where I could do different things. But going into cybersecurity was more a matter of luck.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it turned out that was the practice I was assigned to, and
Mm-hmm.
I started there at the beginning. I didn't find my place, and then everything connected, and I stay. And now I've been here for 4 years and a half.
That's a really good luck you ran into. Abby, I'm really curious to hear about your story.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like there was luck playing in mine too. So that's interesting. So I was a management information systems major, which is a lot of times pretty well split of like business and technology, but mine was definitely more business focused. But I got a couple internships with Walmart, and they were full-time coding internships, which in college, I loved coding, like thought it was super fun, really enjoyed it. And please don't hate me, but when I got into the internship, I realized I hated coding, and that was not for me. So we all have different gifts and that's not mine, but I know a lot of people love it and that's awesome. But when that happened, I was like, okay, well, if I don't want to be doing coding full time, what are some of my other options? And so during my internships, I just kind of like met some other people within the organization, which if you have internships, I strongly encourage you to do that. Look around and see what other options are there, because it's the best opportunity for you to be able to do that. So I ended up in information security, and I was like, y'all, I know nothing about this. My university at the time had no cybersecurity classes, so I had no background at all. But I interviewed and I got a job, and it was, I mean, it's been incredible. So I started literally knowing nothing. But I found it super fascinating. There are a lot of things I really enjoy about it, but I think one thing that's unique about the industry in general is that we all really do want to work together. I mean, we all have the same goal. We don't want to see each other fail. And I think that's a really unique field to be in, and it's kind of fun. I remembered when I was getting into it, again, kind of that, like, what do you guys actually do? What are the options within cybersecurity? Because as you see here, there's so much that you could even join. And one of my favorite analogies, which we probably don't have time for, but if you're interested in it, a lot of people talk about it, is the castle analogy. If you're kind of curious of what types of jobs there are, I know when I talk to a lot of college students, they think cybersecurity is pen testing and red team, and that's all they really know about, which I completely understand. But there's so many different roles within information security. There is coding. If you enjoy that, you can do full-time coding within InfoSec. That's just not for me. But there are so many different roles and so many different just job functions if you're interested. And that's what I really enjoyed about it. So for me, obviously, I'm in crypto. It's something that I didn't know I was going to love, but I ended up loving it. But it's just, for me, I stay in it because it's ever evolving, and I didn't want to be bored. And you will certainly never be bored in this industry because of so much change and so much happening. So I kind of like got into it a weird way, and but I will always be grateful for the people that gave me a job when I told them I know nothing, but I can learn. So it's been a great few years.
That's great. Callie.
Yeah, so I actually went to Catherine Gibbs School. And out of Catherine Gibbs School, I got a job with Prudential, and I started in the accounting department. So from accounting, I grew into other areas of the business. Retirement was one of the businesses that I worked for, but I was in the business. I didn't do any technology work at all. I then moved into I was very interested in technology. Actually, mentorship was huge, and I paid attention, and I worked a lot of hours. So I actually had a lot of my leaders take me under their wing, and they knew that I had a huge interest in computers. So I had certain leaders, and I had, what actually really drove me to technology is, as they were developing back way in the day, our workflow system, they took me into a room and there was whiteboards all over the place, and it was a design of that application. So I was so junior, but yet they had, they really saw something in me. And from there, I went from the help desk, and I kind of, again, was a top performer there, and then information security. And I started information security 22 years ago. And at the time I joined, I really thought that I was going to be doing security provisioning, like something like granting and removing security access from applications, but it wasn't. I was placed into more of a project management role, and in that role, I got involved with every single project that there was in information security. And again, I just had leaders that took me under their wing and taught me everything. So I was able to really grow. I will say that the biggest success is soft skills, right? You can learn, you can Google, you can read white papers, you can get your certifications, understanding the base concepts, but the soft skills, the networking, the communication, how to talk to leadership, that really is really important. And I kind of emphasize that just because the young generation with the social media, sometimes, stop with the acronyms when you're texting. It's really, really important to develop those strong communication skills. We've had individuals come in from college, very, very highly intelligent, was really great in their field, but we had to send them to classes to learn how to basically write because of the young generation and being on their phones, and everything's really quick. So that is, but that's, if you have those core skills and you're able, and you're able to, obviously read technical papers, you'll grow in the field. Sorry, I have my daughter with the dog behind me. Hold on one moment.
Yeah. Talk about communication skills. I think that is really important to share some experiences too. And that is, although this seems like a technical field, that I find that especially in information security or cybersecurity, being able to articulate the actual concepts and application takes a whole different level of command of the language. And this is, as a foreigner, that's something I get to really, I'm sure, Mary, you get to also experience that too, right?
You bet. And to this day, I still get my feedback, improve your communication skills, but I make up for that in other ways. I present better. I try to be informed all the time. I'm always reading different things. And I think that you hit a great point. It's that communications and business skills are very important, just because as a software engineer, you are creating a piece of software that will be sold, right? But security is not monetized, right? You're not selling that product unless your software is a security product for another company. So it's a matter of providing, okay, so in the case, let's say, of Target, when there was the hack, how much money did the company lose because they didn't provide the right security environment, right? So we need to sell any decision, any security decision based on what are the needs and anticipate the constraints also of that and the budgets that the security offices are given. And I will leave the rest to Kelly and Avi.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Actually talking to leadership about the cost benefits of information security, it's really hard to articulate because you don't know the financial loss that will happen. You can only estimate, right? And you're not really, you're not bringing a business, it's not sales. So anything information security related that you're actually bringing in, it's costing the business. They don't want to spend money on anything that's other than a capability that's going to bring in business. So it's really difficult and it's really challenging. Obviously, I think the leadership teams across, the industry now realize the importance of information security or cybersecurity. But it's definitely some tough conversations that you need to have to really articulate when you want to bring in a new tool, application, software, even just hire even a new resource sometimes, try to understand the work that's involved, just because it's not an area that leadership wants to put money towards.
Right. And now that you're bringing our leadership, a thought comes to my mind about communication articulation is that I find that the more senior we are in our positions, the communication articulation becomes a lot more critical in lending that message. Even in our technologists, and I'm sure that Abby, you've experienced this too, if you want to share some experiences, I think that's really important to share with our audience who is who would like to understand what it is that they would like to focus more on or be able to look into and honing some of their skills, right?
Yeah, I'll just add, it's another common term you'll hear if you're in the area or in the division. Security is everyone's responsibility. It isn't just an InfoSec. So you not only have to get your leadership buy-in to support your organization, but you also have to continue to get that buy-in of the rest of the people in the organization that have no connection to information security, but it is for everyone. So you do have to be able to communicate, okay, these are the reasons why, we have these policies in place, and here's how, this impacts you. And so having those skills is really important.
Yeah, and a thought comes to mind, like maybe that's why all of us sort of fell into it. And I certainly have fell into it accidentally as well, as part of more of an audit team. And just very interesting. But then I did realize that it does take that level of articulation skills that I had to develop as well. But it comes naturally because you're surrounded by folks who are very articulate in this industry, right? So this is great. I think that leads into next set of really interesting questions. And this is something I think we all said in our introductions, evolving, ever-changing, etc. So how do you anticipate the field of cybersecurity, information security changing over time? Perhaps you can expand upon some of your observations that's taking now and share with everyone. Abby, would you like to?
Sure. That's difficult because there's so many things. It constantly changes as, different things happen and different technologies advance. There's constant change. I will mention one technology that you see a lot of discussion around right now is IoT. There's a lot of discussion in the industry about, okay, what this is and how do we protect this? And I'm referencing a lot of phrases, but one of the funny jokes people say is the S in IoT stands for security. And so it's a challenge about how we approach this. If you Google it, you will see a number of different companies that have gotten bit by, having some IoT devices that ended up being an access point for an adversary. Like I think there was a fish tank monitor that someone used one time, and that's how they got entrance to their network. So IoT is a big discussion right now if you're just thinking about one technology in specific that people really have their eyes on and will be a focus point, I think, for a lot of the industry.
Right. Mary or Kelly, would you like to also contribute to that question about how do you anticipate this field changing over time?
In my case, I believe that it is changing by the day. It's not changing by the month, it's changing by the day. This pandemic has really precipitated all those changes in technologies that we were expecting in 10 years or 5 years from now. Those are coming now because of the need for different companies to stay afloat or to innovate and to help other people, even in terms of creating the vaccine. They had to use supercomputers to come up with all the algorithms and all the data, create all of that. So understanding that the only thing that will stay there, it's you and your instincts to create a more secure world is the only thing that will stay with you. But technologies will change, everything will change. So your ability to problem solve is the thing that will stay, actually.
Yeah, I think from a pure technology standpoint, where I see things changing, again, the transformation. You have so many of these startup companies and they're able to build their technology right from the start. You don't need the overhead, right? So they don't have the overhead of people. It's truly, and a lot of it's automation, putting whatever they can put into the DevOps environment to automate the code movement, looking at the code for quality, and security vulnerabilities, even before it even gets to production. Development is almost like cubes, almost like building blocks, instead of, programming, doing tons, like all the programming, and then you just add on to the program, and then it's a Band-Aid here and a Band-Aid there. And that's kind of just how it was in the past. You really truly have, you're moving really quickly to the cloud. You are using services that the cloud providers are offering. So coding has become very simplistic, but the movement is so quick, right? So how do you ensure that you, as quickly as things are moving, that you don't have security vulnerabilities also go in there? From an industry standpoint, I could tell you that there's a lot of regulations that are popping up. and I work with a lot of the regulators. So we had a lot of the privacy from state to state. Now you're starting to see the cybersecurity regs. New York Department of Financial Services. You had the DOL that was just issued in the last 2 weeks. And you have to certify, like these CIOs, CISOs of these companies have to certify to these federal regulators the strength of their cybersecurity programs. So, and again, to comply costs money, and then balancing it with the business need and the business strategy, and as quickly as we're moving, right? It's just, it is a huge challenge to keep up with all of that movement. So tons of regulations popping up. Speed to market, agility. And so that's that's where I'm starting to see a lot of change.
Sounds like it's just constantly changing. If you enjoy change and challenges, this is it.
Yeah, I mean, even from moving to a zero trust network, right? You always manage the external threats. Now you have to manage it from internal, because you're doing so much business with strategic partners that you don't really have that base of employees anymore. You have a lot of consultants that are helping. So it's and moving away from data centers, so that now that somebody can just log in and access a business application without it actually being within your own data center. It's either on a cloud or you're putting security firewalls in place so they can access it from any device. So again, very quick movement in these areas.
Wow. You mentioned data centers, right? Could you expand on why you use that, to help us explain data center security versus cloud security? I'm more thinking from how can our audience relate to that?
Like on-prem versus cloud.
Yes, right.
So,
because like I could understand that, but when I think about more of our audience, how would they be applying this information to find more data to see how they could be searching for these type of opportunities?
Right, and companies are moving away from data centers because they're very costly. So so certainly you have your network, and everything was contained within your network, and you were able to monitor that network. Now it's extended to cloud, right? So your cloud, it's like a private cloud, is an extension of your network. So you're monitoring all of that traffic. Certainly your cloud provider might be responsible for the core infrastructure, but as you're putting data and applications out there, you have to be responsible for monitoring that traffic. You have to be responsible for monitoring to make sure you're still not implementing code with vulnerabilities. So the same controls that we had actually on-prem, we've moved into the cloud, and we utilize the services that the cloud providers do offer to simplify that monitoring.
So it's really built-in services that cloud already offers versus the pretty much customized services a lot of these on-prem services provide. I think that's probably the expected differences. Maybe it provides more data set and how our audience can do more research.
Yeah, and it's a lot, and it's very it's more cost effective for companies to purchase what they call software as a service, right? So those software programs are also built on their cloud provider. So you have different apps, and that's why I said you're moving away from your core data centers, because it's just cheaper to purchase an application that's already out there supported by somebody else. Obviously you have your data, you have to make sure it's secure, you're monitoring that, your associates need to access it. But so now you have to apply security on being able to, we're working from home because of COVID, right? So how can they be able to access a business application from any device, a personal or business device, in a secure fashion? Yeah.
Wonderful.
There's a lot going on.
Yes. Another thought came to my mind is, with a focus on bring more awareness and how to find more opportunities in this industry. What kind of experience do you expect or hope to see folks who's looking for this type of opportunity, whether it be college grad or someone who's switching from another, job to cybersecurity? What would be the type of experience would you expect or hope to see?
I'll add really quickly to this one. I know we have just like a minute or two left, but what we tend to look for isn't necessarily tons of experience, because to what's been discussed already, we can teach you the technology, but do you have those skills to be able to go learn it and apply it and communicate it when you need it? So any type of project that you have that you can speak to, intelligently, like, this is what I did. I built this application. It may have nothing to do with security, but if you can speak to it and the choices that you made, that's really what we tend to look for. I will also say, I'll let them add something if they want, but feel free to reach out to me if you want. I'm happy to talk to you about some entry-level jobs or different types of jobs within the field, because I know it's kind of weird when you talk about it, like, okay, what does it mean to be in network security? And what does it mean to do all of these types of things? And where do you start? I'm more than happy to help, but yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
I think it's important to understand because there are so many different niches of information security. There is even cyber psychologists, right? So there's just so many different aspects of the field, is understanding where you want to narrow that down, and then where do you focus your education or those requirements. From my standpoint, and working like within the BISO team, if you understand at a high level the different security domains, access controls, logging, and so forth, the rest is teachable, right? It's really those soft skills that we really do look for: being able to communicate between your technology partners and your business partners, being able to listen to what your business partners are looking for, and then how do you solve for that? And how do you articulate, risk up to your leadership teams, or even to your manager, right? If you see something at risk, how do you bring that to their attention in a timely fashion?
Great, thank you. Mary?
So I said that what the cybersecurity world needs right now, it's a different perspective. So an English major, a biology major are qualified just because they have the analytical skills or the communication skills to succeed in different areas. So it's not that only computer scientists can go into this field, but there is a need for different type of thinking and approaching problems, so that we can actually solve the problems that exist. Because a hacker doesn't necessarily have a degree.
That's a great point.
Anyone.
That's a great point. Great, well, thank you. Thank you all for joining. I think that was our very last session.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're so, that was so interesting, and there was so much information. I know I really enjoyed it. I want to thank our panelists. You were fantastic. I want to thank our alumni for joining us this evening. If you guys want to take your camera phone out and take a quick screen grab of our QR code tonight, and there's a quick survey. It takes less than a minute to complete, if you don't mind filling that out for us. It'll help us determine what our upcoming topics might be. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening.
I think we're done. What do you think? I think we just log off, Mary. I think that's what's happening. Yes. I didn't ask how we end the session.
Thank you guys so much. That was fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I wish we could do a lot more deep dive, but that was really fun.
That was fun.
It was
nice meeting you all.
Likewise. Have a good evening. Bye.